Hello everyone and welcome. Welcome to the fourth installment of this series of adventures in spectroscopy. The first video established the spectrum measurement setup, the second was on emissions, and the third one was on transmissions. Please see the links to these videos in the description below. In this fourth video, we will measure the reflection of many items, some which can be found in your home. First, let's describe the setup. This is the spectrometer, and this is the entrance to the spectrometer in gold. And on this side, we're going to have a known light source. Let's turn it on. To measure reflections, we're going to put this light on the side of the spectrometer in a position where it can reflect on surfaces towards the spectrometer. And to make sure we position items always on the same place, we're going to use a small disc that I've constructed so that we're always aligned towards the spectrometers the same way. Here we will measure diffuse reflectivity, meaning that light is reflected diffusely in many directions, by opposition to specular reflectivity, where light is reflected in a particular direction like a mirror. We just want to measure the spectrum of the reflected light, so diffuse reflection is okay. I have grouped the reflection items in three families. Regular surfaces, meaning no fluorescence or phosphorescence, and then fluorescence group, and lastly, the phosphorescence group. All right, so for regular surfaces, we have to set up a reference for 100% reflectivity. So I read that the whitest material we can find in a household, regular household, is polytetrafluoroethylene, PTFE for short, also called Teflon. So what I've done is I've rolled up some Teflon tape on a piece of cardboard, Teflon tape that's used for plumbing. And I'm putting it behind the target here. And I'm declaring this as the 100% reflectivity, which is what you see now. So let's go on with some samples, some paint samples. This is a medium blue sample. This is green. This is orange. This is purple. This is red. And this is yellow. You can see the mix of colors there. What's surprising is that none of the colors are really exactly single peaks or very narrow peaks. For instance, other samples, like this is a lighter shade of green that we have in the house. That's a little bit more peaky. And this is pink. Oops, there. Interesting mix of colors there. Red and blue. I have also as a reference card for photography. Now the gray side is 18% gray, supposedly, for cameras to have as a reference, as an average reference for their exposure. This is pretty flat. On the other side of the same card, this is a reference card made in Germany. I have the white side, which is used for white balance. We can see it's pretty flat, not perfect, but pretty flat. I also have a piece of bright orange paper. You can see a peak there. Very interesting. We'll remeasure that for fluorescence. And this is post-it note, bright yellow. I also have black foam board, pretty low, around 5%, and black velvet, not as flat, but much lower in the visible. Last piece will be white paper. This is white paper. Interesting peak in the blue. This is white paper with a pink marker. Interesting peaks. And this is white paper with yellow marker. Now let's do the second group, fluorescence, which will be followed by the third group, phosphorescence. Okay, let's talk fluorescence. This is when a surface absorbs light from a light source and re-emits that light in a longer wavelength while it is being lit. This is different than phosphorescence. We'll see that later. We're going to use a UV light, and that UV light is around 365 nanometers. If I put Teflon in the light path, you'll see that light around 365, the peak on the left. That's the source of light. And this is white paper. White paper, as you can see on the screen, generates the light between 400 and 550 nanometers. It fluoresces from the UV light that you see the peak on the left. This is white paper with pink marker. You see the new peak around 600. Makes it pink with the other colors. And this is white paper with yellow marker. New peak now around 520 nanometers. So this is all fluorescence. Also, the bright red piece of paper showed you before does fluoresce at 600. If I remove the light, fluorescence goes away. And this is post-it notes, bright yellow. Fluoresces around 530. Remove the light, it goes away. Another place where you can see the fluorescence phenomenon is in your passport. This is my passport. If I light it up with a UV light, you can see all these colors. It doesn't show up on the spectrometer. It's not bright enough, but you can see all these colors that disappear when you turn off the UV light. Spectacular. Now, chlorophyll fluoresces in red when exposed to UV light. So here I have basilic leaf, and if I expose it to UV light, it turns red. You can kind of see the fluorescence around 675 nanometers. There's a little bump that appears at the bottom. If I turn off the light, it's just a green leaf. Very interesting. I can do the same thing with lettuce. So here's a leaf. I expose the UV light. You can see the red coming out. You can see the peak in the spectrum as well. Another demonstration of fluorescence is virgin olive oil. Looks just regular transparent yellow under normal light. If I use a green laser across it, it turns red. This doesn't show up on the spectrometer, but it's a green laser at 532 nanometers, and this fluoresces in red. Very spectacular. Oh, and minions don't fluoresce at all. Okay, that's it for fluorescence. Let's do the last group, phosphorescence. Now, phosphorescence is when a surface absorbs light from a light source and re-emits that light in a longer wavelength, but it lingers after you stop the source of light. This is a bottle of glow-in-the-dark paint, and if I put it at the entrance and I shine UV light on it, you can see that it has phosphorescence around 530, 540. If I remove the UV light, phosphorescence remains. That's the difference with fluorescence. Here I have a piece of 3D printed plastic. It's a glow-in-the-dark plastic. Thank you, Danielle, for giving me that piece. Again, if I remove the light, phosphorescence continues. Stays for a while. This is impressive on this plastic. Now, I can try to light this up with lasers. This is a red laser. Doesn't do anything. I can do it with green laser. There's no phosphorescence from that light. Only when I use UV light does it turn on brighter. Impressive. One last surface for phosphorescence. The dial of one of my watches. It has markers. And if I shine a light on it, remove the light, still glow in the dark. That's phosphorescence. So that's it for the last part of this series of videos on basic spectroscopy measurements. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.